All good? Excited to come to CMC?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, my name is Krish, Kothari. I am the founder and CEO of KKD Studio. We do ultra high-end residential projects in Mumbai. Most of our clients are all the billionaires in Bombay, and we basically have the most demanding clients, so you can imagine why I'm losing my hair. But anyway, purpose of today's talk is to give you guys some insight into the practical world of interior design. I am not an architect, so I am not going to speak about architecture, but I can talk about interior design as a whole, because design is a very large conversation, but I like to keep it specific in my talk so that it adds value to your life. Otherwise, you're wasting your time listening to me and I'm wasting my time talking to you. Okay? So, to start off with, you're at CMC. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about the facility. The way I'm going to structure my talk is I'm going to talk about CMC for about 2-3 minutes. Then we're going to talk about design for about 15 to 17 minutes as a whole. And then at the end, I'm also going to talk about CMC for another 2 minutes. Just so that sums it up. And after that, we'll be followed by a Q&A. So if you all have any relevant questions that as students you have doubts in your minds when you're studying or in the real world or whatever, please feel free to ask me. I can give you the answers where I have experienced it to my best knowledge. It may not be the best answer, but it's to my best knowledge. Okay? So to start off with, you guys are at CMC. Okay? CMC is literally the biggest marble processor and one of the biggest marble companies in terms of trade supply in India. Okay? They have an extraordinary processing unit, which you're going to go through a guided tour. They're going to take you through the steps of how marble comes from Italy or Vietnam or China in blocks, how it gets cut, how it gets processed, vacuum sealed, epoxy layered, baked, calibrated, and then displayed slabs is what you're seeing. But the back end of it is something that they're going to show you. And I would appreciate it if you guys paid a lot of attention to them explaining the entire process to you. Because as interior designers, which is what you guys are, okay? You guys need to know the process of marble end to end. It is important for your client to have confidence in you all at any given point in the future that you guys know your stuff from start to finish. You don't want half information, you want full information, okay? Keep your ears open when they're explaining it to you. The technical team at CMC is absolutely fantastic. I work with the director of the company directly, so I can vouch for that. Okay. So let's talk about design. Let's talk about stones, the importance of marble in interiors. I'm going to specifically talk about residential interiors because that is my specialization. I can touch upon commercial a little bit, but I'm going to talk more about residential. Okay. So how important is marble in a project? Can anyone give me an answer? Because I don't like giving a train track speech. I prefer people interacting with me. How important is marble in a project? Where is it used? Why is it used?
Well, marble, biggest one is you get huge blocks of them. So in bigger spaces it can be widely used. Secondly, it's a luxury. Like it looks good.
Good. That's an answer that I would expect from a university student or someone studying design. To be very honest, I take a lot of interviews, so that's a pretty good answer. But marble and stone in general, in a wider concept, it's a material that's been used for decades. All the way from the pyramids to build them, all the way to today, modern age, literally, 2023. Okay? The application of marble varies in multiple spaces. And I'm going to only give you all practical information because once you graduate and you'll start working in the real world, this is what you guys need to know, so I'm telling you. Okay? Flooring marble. Let's talk about flooring marble specifically. Okay? Does anyone know what characteristics we should look at as designers, since we're all in the same fraternity, for something which is flooring specific, for a flooring application? Anybody?
Durability.
Okay, great. Durability, one answer. Anti-skid properties, okay. Porous, non-porous, very important. That's to do with durability.
From design point of view, the pattern.
Aesthetic choice. Materials, patterning, book matching, XYZ. Anything else? Scratches. Durability again, a subsector of durability. And sizing. Sizing, why is sizing important?
depends on the space, the size of the room.
Right.
Should like fit in.
So your marble will always fit in. The actual answer to that is your sizing. If you choose the right sizing and you do the right patterning on CAD, you will actually get your right jointing, and then you will be happy with the finish, and your consistencies and your geometries will come through. That's the purpose of sizing. Otherwise, you can get varying sizes and keep fixing it in standard patterns that anybody can do. It's very simple. Okay. So yes, very good. All of you all know this as a overall. Let's talk about durability. It's one of the most controversial topics in marble. Okay. So let's split up durability into a couple of parts. The first one is that I talk about is thickness. For the floor, does anybody know what thickness of stone you should be using? Not what is being used, or not what you know is being used, what you should be as a minimum. Gold standard in Italy, and that's where the best marble processing happens in the world, just for information, is 20 mm. Okay? Now, in India, generally what tends to happen is they take a slab, they take a block, and they cut it into 18 just because they can actually get 4 to 5 more slabs from the block. That's one part. But in CMC, if you look at the premium flooring marble section, which is the Carraras, if you can take them through the Carraras later, they come from Italy in 20 mm formats. They come pre-cut, pre-polished, calibrated. So for the floor, as a rule of thumb, please use 20. My honest take on the subject. But if there are budget constraints and you really can't find something in 20 mm, 18 is acceptable. Not best case scenario, acceptable. Anything below 18, definitely not. Okay, for the floor. That's one part of it, which is thickness. Let's talk about the other one, which came up, porosity. Okay, so how porous or how non-porous a stone is, what is the outcome of that? If a stone is porous, what happens? Okay, absorb stain, that's what all you guys know, because you're smart. That's 90% of the answers. What about the second part of porosity? Does anybody know? Okay. Yes, that is true. Yes and no. But there's one part of porosity which you guys have not told. I mean, I can tell you all. Okay, as interior designers, you all are going to care about the finish of the stone when two slabs are put together. You will see out here that if the stone is densified, which means there's a chemical process done to it, the porosity is removed, it's dehydrated rather, the joints that you get from it become seamless. Because in India, all of us love hairline joints, exact cut-to-cut joints. Nobody likes 1 mm spacers how they do it in Europe. In India, ekdam baal-baal, probably not that sometimes. Now, in order to get that, the stone has to be non-porous. It has to be non-porous A, B hard as hell. Otherwise, you're not going to get that finish. Keep that in mind. So whenever you're going with a flooring marble, please do not go and choose highlighters with crazy color patterns and veins and pigmentation, because the chances are when you apply that on the block, the joint is going to look terrible. Take a stone which is hard and non-porous. Your supplier, if he's a good supplier like CMC, they will give you honest truth about this one. Okay? That's the second thing, porosity. Third thing, someone said scratches, right? It's to do with durability only. And someone said anti-skid, right? Okay. Glossy marble on the floor cannot be made anti-skid. It is impossible. Because if you told your client that if the client told you that I want a super high gloss finish, you have to do a 9-stage diamond grinding and polishing to it, which is going to make it look that shiny and give them that output, but it is not going to be anti-skid. So don't kid your client on that, ever. And there's nothing you can do about that in the world, it doesn't exist. To make it anti-skid, you can either do a honed finish on it, a leather finish on it, or you can do a super matte finish on it. But the maintenance to cleaning that is a lot more. Because the dust, the stains, all of that collects more on those kind of surfaces. So there is a trade-off. As a designer, in your professional opinion, you should be advising your client that, hey, listen, This is the trade-off. There's more maintenance in anti-skid finish, and a gloss finish looks like this, but it's not anti-skid. The choice is yours. As me as a designer, I'm giving you my professional objective input on both. You have to take the call. You're the client. Keep that in mind. As designers, it is not your responsibility to choose the color for the client. I'll get to that later. It is your responsibility to give them the advantages, which is the pros and the cons to every selection they make during their design process from start to finish. Because that tells me, if I was your client, these guys know what they're talking about. I have clarity on the pros and cons, and it is our decision to make. Keep that in mind. Okay? So that's true in durability of scratches in terms of finishes. Then there is the hydrophobic effect. What's your name? Supradeep. So let's say I'm this client, okay, and he has designed a beautiful black Marquina countertop for me with a basin in it. And site is handed over, everything looks great, Instagram shots, videos, sorted, client happy, designer happy, blah blah blah. 6 months later, you get a call from me. Hey buddy, it looked great to begin with, but now when I put my toothpaste holder on it with moisture and I move it, there's a dark, there's a stain, there's a watermark. What do I do? What do you do then?
Scrub it.
No, you cannot scrub it. The marble's already sucked up. Well, yes, but that's endless, it will keep happening. You'll have to repolish it again after 2 years or 6 months. That's one. Does anybody know what can be done to it? This is all 2015 onwards. This was invented 2015 onwards. So if it's not in your textbook, I don't blame you. But if it's not in your textbook, I don't blame you. But right. Okay. There are 2 ways to make marble hydrophobic. Okay, which the teachers won't tell you. Okay, because actually it's not for marble, but it can be used for marble, and it's tried and tested. Now, in the very recent times. So it's probably not a part of your curriculum, but it's a recent innovation. One is nano-ceramic coating. Nano-ceramic coating forms a 0.1 mm layer on any stone. It's a clear glass coating. It makes it hydrophobic, and water stains do not penetrate into the surface of the stone. Something what we do on the car. Yes, it started with the automotive industry, went to wood, then got specialized in marble. Exactly. One part. Yes, but ceramic coatings as well, 3 years, maybe 2 years, depending on how hard the use is the lifespan. So you have to redo it. The problem of sending a laborer to the house and disrupting the house is going to be there. How do you make it for 15 years? It's something to do with cars. Again, paint protection film. PPF. Ultra thin paint protection film. Companies like Lumar and Avendis, they do it. It has to be wrapped around your marble, especially for high-use counters. Kitchen countertops, vanities, bar table counters, stuff like that. It is expensive right now. By the time you guys start practicing, it won't be expensive. Okay? That is what makes it forever. There is no possibility of any water staining or hydrophobic issues related to the stone that will ever occur if you do that. Ceramic, yes, base level. PPF, absolute next level. Okay? You as designers should know that, because it is your objective to give solutions to the client. The cost, yes, that changes as per the market. As a designer, you need to have a solution. That's the most important. I've dealt with 4 aspects of durability of marble. Is there any other aspect that you guys want me to talk about specific to marble durability? Because now I want to talk about design as a larger conversation. So, interiors. Okay? When you guys are choosing materials, okay, and in school, you know, they'll train you for color combinations, they'll train you for space planning, they'll train you for a lot of things. Okay? But in the real world, the part that's missing from school is what you learn in the real world. And that is actually physically knowing how what you design is going to be built. Because that's a whole different ballgame. Okay? Now, we as KKD are a design build firm, i.e. we don't take design consultancy projects. Either we design and build them or we say no. Okay? The reason for that is we have control over everything we design, and the end product that comes out is what is originally envisaged. One of the reasons for design build versus design consultancy, 2 different ways to operate. We are a design build firm. Okay? So that's why I'm talking about this, because as designers, when you guys come up with things, it could be an elevation of a wall where you can do wooden slabs with veneer as a combo and leather, wallpaper, marbles, some kind of composition or typology that you'll come up with as designer. Everybody will come up with a separate typology. Everyone will come up with something new. But the question is, can that be built easily? What is the feasibility of it? How is it going to be built? How is it going to be fixed? Is it possible? That is something I'd like to touch upon, which is a very, very important thing that I would advise you all. Whenever you are designing something, please know how it's going to be built. Don't say, "Acha, मैंने design बनाया, अभी contractor का जिम्मेदारी है." No, client approved your design. Please understand, there's a big gap there. If you don't know how something is going to be built, don't design. Simple. Second aspect, you need to innovate as designers. You need to come up with new things. Otherwise, all your projects, one after the other, over 10 years, are going to become cookie cutter. It's going to be like copy paste. And it's going to be repetitive. So when you innovate, how do you innovate? Knowing that a contractor might not know how to build this. How are you going to innovate? Does anybody know? This is a key aspect of interior design which will happen in your practical part of your life when you are being paid to work and paid to service clients. But does anybody know how to actually ensure that your innovation becomes a reality? Not on a client's time and not pissing anyone. Not pissing anyone off. Does anybody know? A lot of bright minds here, I'm pretty sure. The internet's crazy these days, so is Instagram. I get to know most of the stuff anyways. But does anybody know? I'm talking to you about the stuff that you don't see online. When you innovate something, please make a full-size mock-up of it with the finished materials as it's supposed to be finished, and if it's a paneling system, fix it on the damn wall. What you do on paper should be exactly what you see in your mock-up. Then, if that's something you've innovated, you can propose it to your client. Because you know, boss, I've designed it, I've tested it, I've fixed it, I know the process, the contractors understand it, we are working with it, all of you all will be working with different guys in your life. But we know that it's a guaranteed 100% foolproof thing. So unless you'll build a mock-up and fix it, do not propose anything new to a client. That is rule of thumb. Do it on your own and then propose. Very important part. Okay? Now, I'd like to talk about design as a conversation, as a whole. This is the advice I give to all the designers that I meet in the fraternity, at trade shows, who sit and interview me. This is younger kids who I meet in Italy when I'm at Salone with my clients for furniture selection, which happens every year. This year being April now. A lot of people talk to me about how do you envisage something? How do you come up with a material board? How do you know that that's good? How do you visualize the whole space? What aspects go into it? Now, I'm sure this is a $1 million question for all of you. Because, well, you are studying it day in, day out, you're doing tests, you're doing practical applications, stuff like that. But let me tell you something. What you visualize is what you experienced in your life up to that point. I'll give you a simple example because otherwise I'm just talking theoretical nonsense. In my life, I've lived 30 years now, okay? I've traveled to pretty much all the countries around the world. I've stayed at certain places, I've seen certain things, I've connected with certain things. I've had certain experiences in my life. Those net experiences that I've had in my life is what is determining how I visualize a space for a client. It is who I am as an individual and my interpretation of the client. It is not who the client is, it is my interpretation of the client. Similarly with you guys, the client is coming to you because they believe you can interpret them in the best way possible. That's why they have chosen you. Otherwise, they will choose somebody else. And in life, you will gain some projects and you will lose some projects. It is natural. Okay? Now, when it comes to doing materials, you guys work a lot with materials, I'm sure. You'll have planning spaces and you'll see physical samples, you'll do drafting, you'll elevate, fixing details, accuracy of elevation, dimensionality, geometry, all of that comes in. You're practicing that right now. But when it actually comes to materials, like for example, if I have a client, how do I know that Satvario flooring, oak veneered walls with stainless steel 304 rose gold inlay and suede wallpaper and track lighting and plants and naughty furniture with XYZ fabrics? I've just given you a thing that's off the top of my head. I've envisaged the whole space. How do I know that everything I've selected out here is applicable to that? How do I know that it's relevant to them? Because that's why they've hired me. Anybody know? I'd love to hear answers from you guys because this is actually the most important part of interior design and what it means to being a designer. So I would like, and even if you'll answer me and you're missing some information, I'll complete it. But how do I know that this is what the client will like and this is what will represent the client? How do I know?
Just as you said that we will visualize things what we experience in our life. So we have to learn about his experience in his life so that we can experience, like, interpret it in our design.
Very good starting point. I'm going to take that forward 5 steps. Okay? That's a conversation you're going to have with the client. What the client likes, the colors, their hobbies, their travel interests, everything. Where does that go after it's a conversation?
Design.
It goes into a design brief, a formalized design brief, which is in front of you. Okay? Process, very important. You cannot skip that. You can be God, you can't skip that. Okay? After it's in the design brief, then when you're selecting materials, how do you know that after you've selected something based on the brief that it's applicable? How do you know that? True.
Their requirements.
Requirements are already taken care of in space planning in terms of function and stuff like that. And chalo, if they say I like light colors, you choose a light scheme. If they like dark colors, you choose a dark scheme. If they say I like Satvario, you put Satvario. I get it. But when you see the whole composition, leather, wallpaper, marble, paint, furniture, every damn material going in the house together as a composition, how do you know that based on this brief, this is the best selection?
Maybe we emotion that
Emotional attachment. Okay? And close. Almost done. But still, this is the deep part of the conversation. This is the part which is the grey area. But how do you make the sketches based on, like, how do you make the sketches? With what basis? I can sketch something that looks extremely good, but I don't know if it will look extremely good to you. References, I will still only get a vague understanding. Very good. Critical answer. Not that she is right, but major factor. There are multiple factors. When I have a design brief and when I spend time with a client, let's say you're my client, okay, and I spend time with you, and I spend time with you not only asking you design questions, I ask you about your life, I ask you about your interests, I ask you about how you want to host your guests, I ask you about who you are, I assess your reaction. Are you an emotional person? Are you a hyperactive human being? Are you irritating? Are you cold? Are you dry? Are you straight cut? Are you confused? I am sitting in front of you and literally mapping out a Charitra Chitran like a psychologist on a paper. That's what I'm doing. Legit. That's what I'm doing. After that, if I have to take that Charitra Chitran and make it a material mood board, that these characteristics represent this personality. And this personality is resonating through these materials. That is what I am feeling. It's not that I like the material set. My objective is to make the material set as per their character. Because, larger question, when someone walks into their house, and this is a mistake that a lot of, I would say, novice designers make, or mid-level designers make, when they walk into a house, you should not say that, oh, this house is done by Krish, or this house is done by Zahari, or this house is done by Talak, or somebody. That is not the objective of residential design. If I am a client's guest and I walk into the house and my client's name is Mr. Shah, I will say, this talks, walks and breathes Mr. Shah. And the designer has interpreted it and finished it beautifully. That is my objective as a designer. Residential design is bespoke. Materials that you select is bespoke. You have to do it as per who the client is. Because if the house doesn't resonate him, you as a designer have failed. Capital F, capital A, capital I, capital L, capital E, capital D. Legit, you failed. Please keep that in mind. That is the most important thing you can take away from this conversation. Okay? Yeah. So I'm gonna skip to Q&A. I'm gonna take 4 to 5 questions from different people, and these can be completely open-ended questions. Anything that you guys have questions about, or have been curious about, or difficulties that you face in your design course, or things that you'll constantly think about and are questioning why you're thinking about it. Please feel free to ask me, and I'm happy to give you all the answers as long as they're not personal questions.
How do you start with material selection? I mean, what do you prefer first? Selecting a marble or selecting some kind of furniture or something?
Okay, so a lot of designers approach this sorry, for the guys at the back, the question was, how do you start selecting materials? Do you select furniture first? Do you select wall materials first? What do you do? I can only speak to you from the experience of our firm, because we have a very strict standardized process of how we operate, and everybody has to operate in that process. It's like a creative cage. But to answer your question specifically, we start with selecting base materials. So floor, wall, ceiling first, the shell. Okay. Now I haven't said that if for the floor materials, if I said, okay, I know that there's wood flooring going in the house, I know that there's tiles going in the house, I know that there's marble going in the house. I will select based on the design brief, based on my Charitra Chitran that I told you, I will select 3 of each material or 4 of each material depending on how many zones there are. But I will not say this goes in that zone, this goes in this zone. I will not do that. I will just first select it. Then I will select wallpaper, then I will select leather, then I will select stainless steel. All the materials that I use as a designer, I will select in shortlist what makes sense in any computation. Then I will keep that aside. I will not finalize or not make a decision that on my first draft this will be the composition. I will keep that aside. I will then take out furniture that I've envisaged for the house. And the furniture materials could be wood, could be fabric, could be metal, could be anything, aluminium, whatever, depending on what it's made of. Cane, whatever. Put all the materials together, and I just want to put the base materials mood board and the furniture materials mood board side by side and see that it tallies. Then I'm allowed to interchange. And then I create my composition. Creating my composition is a very personal thing. I cannot explain to you how I do it. But to give me the options for what I can use in my composition, that is how I go about it.
You were saying about innovating, so you create a box space like that. So that might be like you bit like if you want to do some cladding, or let's say you did that. But how do you know about the durability of that?
Okay, so
So you have just tested it for like let's say a
couple of months, right? So, first of all, very good question. Second of all, in order to assess durability, because the one thing you can't do is wait 10 years for it to be on the wall and then at the client, oh, now it's ready.
Exactly.
Right? So, this is where your fixing details come into play. Okay, so there are certain fixing details which you can use and you should use, and then there are certain fixing details which you can't use depending on what you're building. So, if a contractor builds the design or the product or the panel that you have envisaged in a particular manner, and you're seeing that while it's being built, the strength could be increased. I don't know, you probably use, instead of using ply and araldite, you use anchor fasteners and bison cord. You can do that R&D. But to actually test it, you can't. Is there warranty on their tech sheet? A. And B, the fact that I've used it 7 or 8 years ago and there's no problem. I can't rely on any of the data, because as a designer, you should only rely on things that you have seen and done. If somebody tells you this works, throw that in the garbage bin until you test it. Because if it doesn't work and that day comes and your client experiences something, they're gonna hang you upside down. I promise. I've been there once. A very long time ago. Okay. Not going there again. So to answer your question, impossible to know. You can rely on all the technical data. It's like this, yeah. Like if an iPhone 14 comes out, they've used a new processor, Apple A15 chip. But after 3 years of usage, they developed an A15 chip and they tested it for only 1 or 2 years. But after 3 years of usage, if it blew up in your face, how would they know? How would you know? You can't. But the OEM will take the responsibility for it. So in that case, a design build firm or your contractor will take the responsibility. If anything happens, I'm dead. That's all you can do to your client. You cannot assure them anything. It's my responsibility. And that is the onus you take as a designer.
It works, then you can use it.
Correct. Second thing, if you don't make that mock-up and you do it on site, then you're really screwed. So make the mock-up, rely on the tech sheet, test it for 1 or 2 months, and then do it.
And you said earlier that the space you're designing should reflect both the client's personality and character.
Yeah.
So, but there are multiple people living in residential spaces, and we know that character and personalities can contrast like hell.
Right.
So, how do you manage to find a common ground?
If you have a wife down the line, and I'm your designer, first of all, let me make this very clear. You guys end up doing a lot more marriage counseling than design. I've been there, done that. Okay. The second part. if they both have very different personalities, and this has happened to me a lot of times, where the husband said, no, I want this to soap, I prefer this scheme. The wife said, no, I want the drama, I want this scheme. You make render 1 and render 2, put it in front of their face.
Or you just let them decide?
No, render 1 and render 2. If they still can't decide, I say, okay, if you all can't decide, render 3 is on me. And you will not say anything. This is what I do. I come up with render 3, which is a middle ground between both of their schemes. And then they accept it. Or I tell them, listen, in my concept design, I have for this particular zone, like a powder room, I have render 1, render 2, and render 3. I'm not doing any more renders for any more concept design. You have to pick between 1, 2, and 3. Let me know, others I'm not moving forward. Simple. I keep it like that. So what I've done, I've taken her consideration, I've taken his consideration, and I've given my own middle ground. This is the best I can possibly do as a designer. I can't do more than that. But make sure you do that. That's the least. Then leave it up to them. That's the best way I can answer that question. And I do it all the time. In fact, we all joke about it a lot that we're doing a lot more managed counseling than design. And unfortunately, we have CCTVs in the office and we record each meeting on Zoom. Like the VR system records it. It's funny to replay them. In fact, the way they fight, once the house is done, I can play it on their TV once they're done.
Basically, you have to be friend of friend.
You have to what?
Be friend of friend.
Be friends? No. Your clients are not your friends. They never will be your friends. They will be clients. Okay? It is very hard to make that distinguishment between them at all times, with every single client. I've fallen prey to it, a lot of people have fallen prey to it. In a professional equation with your client where there is payment and there is fees, please take all the friendliness out of the equation. It is a purely professional, rational equation. Yes, when they come, hi, how are you, how was that party, how was your trip, small talk is fine. Being friends with them after the project's handed over.
From where you have better experience?
Okay, so I studied in Milan. I'm actually a product designer. Okay? But my role in my company is I am actually the founder and the CEO of my company. So all I do in the project is land the client, review the space planning with our technical team and architects. I do the concept design, envisage what material goes where with my design team. I do the automation, I do the tech, I do the client management, and I overview project management. This is my role in the firm. So in theory, I'm not an architect, but that's fine because I don't come up with the schematic drawings and sections. The qualified guys do it. I don't do that. MEP consultants do the MEP, HVAC guys do the HVAC, fire does the fire. I look at it as an overall vision, and that's my role to answer your question. And yeah, if you guys, this has all been a lot of talk, but all of you are on Instagram. So if you just type in KKD Studio on Instagram, it'll probably be the first page that comes up. You can see all the work that we do there. And I always encourage students to see it because it's not your typical, we don't have any painted walls in any of our projects, everything is cladded. So it's quite interesting to see as designers. Please go ahead, look at it, and if there's anything, send a message on DM and you'll probably get the answer that I will give you. Thanks guys, have fun at CMC. The best processing that happens in Italy with the machinery of marble, which I've seen from 10 years ago, is not here. You are blessed to be at a time and age where technology is so transparently open. CMC is the only one in India who has this kind of processing machinery. Go there, sit with their technical team, understand it from start to finish, pick and choose what you like, but remember the key things that I told you all about clients. It'll take you all a long way, and good luck to all of you all. I hope you all become extremely successful. And it's a lot of work, it's sleepless nights, but it's worth it.